Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Punter, and I am going to talk to you today about stress management. This is going to cap off our month long self care on the month of January. And I think I just ended off with stress management. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to have a discussion about stress management. Okay. So you guys know who I am. Um, I really think this whole pandemic has really changed my outlook about my time and how I use it, especially about self care and all that other stuff. So I want to just kind of get into why I think it was important to do this. Stressful times calls for measurements to manage our stress better. Anxiety and depression is at an all-time high. And so I think a lot of times it's triggered by stress. And if you can manage your stress, you can manage your overall mental and emotional health. So we're going to talk about understanding the cause of stress, managing our emotions and physical health, how to utilize healthy coping mechanisms, and planning ahead and staying in control when we are dealt things like unexpected phenomenon such as a pandemic. So let's go. So what most people are dealing with stress, they usually deal in a mostly unhealthy way by using what's called coping mechanisms. And coping mechanisms can be healthy, but most oftentimes people go into unhealthy coping mechanisms just to manage their stress or even deal with it. So it's not even really managing, it's just dealing with it. So it's a way our body responds, and some things that we as a default mechanism, such as smoking, using alcohol and drugs, withdrawing from family, friends, or activities, binging on junk food or comfort food. Procrastination is also a form of stress, believe it or not. Zoning out on TV, social media, or taking stress out on others, usually people that are closest to us, like family. So, based on your coping mechanisms, will determine how you manage your stress. And what we want to do is switch these unhealthy coping mechanisms to more healthy coping mechanisms and eliminate these when we are feeling stressed, not as our go to. We need stress in our lives, believe it or not. Not all stress is bad. Some stress is good. It's called eustress. Think about things like competitions where you're running in a race or you're competing for something. That's stressful, but it's a good stress because it motivates us to accomplish our goals. But stress is, from a human perspective, is used to, as perseverance and preservation, actually, both. And it's usually three ways that we respond, either by fighting back, reacting to the stress, flight, which means running away, avoiding stress, or freeze, which means you're being immobilized by the stress, like just standing still and not knowing what to do. So that's three ways that our body usually responds to stress. But stress is personal. One thing for me could be something for you different. Like I may be stressed about, which I am. I don't like heights anymore, and so that may be stressful to me. Going on a roller coaster. Oops, sorry. But somebody else that's not stressful. Public speaking can be stressful for one person, but it's not for me. So it's individual and it's different for everyone. But we can all agree that stress can put a strain or tension on our lives in different ways. But we do know that it does form some type of tension. That's how we respond through that tension. Perception is really a big part of stress. What we see or what we think about something determines how we will react or respond to it. There is a difference between what you think something is and what is reality. And that perception is usually based on our values, how we see things, past experiences and beliefs, and past outcomes of situations that we've been involved with. So our perception is a myriad of all of those experiences, and that's how we address certain situations in our life. The difference is that sometimes our perception is not accurate of exactly what is happening, and so we have to understand the difference between perception and reality. And that difference is where the stress and the conflict in our lives, that tension that I just referred to, comes from. People are disturbed not by a thing, but by their perception of a thing, and that's true. Think about it. It's not so much the thing itself; it's how you feel about it. What is your belief about it, and what are your values about it? So that's where perception has a big part of stress. And if you can manage your perception, you could probably manage your stress even better. So let's talk about the difference. We use these words stress. I'm stressed out quite a bit. So, what is stress and what is stressed out? Stress is our physical response to a person or situation. Stressed out is the physical and emotional response combined, and stressor is the thing that actually produces this stress response. So, the key to actually managing your stress is to identify what your stressor is. And once you identify your stressor, then you will be able to manage your stress. So, we're going to talk about ways that you can manage those stressors in your life once you identify what they are. Okay. So, this is another depiction of what I just said. It's the stress cycle, and it just shows you how it's all interconnected and how stress can be cyclical. So, an event happens, and it could be a person or a thing or someplace you go that is the stressor, and it requires a response, and usually it's a physical and emotional response based on your perception of how you view that particular event or person. And then your perception, of course, elicits the mental and emotional physical response that you have about that. So see, it's a cycle that goes around and around. So the event happens first, and then your perception of the event elicits the physical and emotional response to that event. Again, perception plays, as you see, an integral part of that, because how you view it will determine how you respond to it. Either you will fight back and react, or you will run away and avoid, or you'll be immobilized, and not do anything. That's where the procrastination sometimes comes into place. Many different reasons why we have stress in our lives. Right now, I identified the main ones that is due to the pandemic. People are afraid of getting a virus. People are working from home now, and so you have children that are being schooled from home, and parents that are working from home, and then there's that work-life balance. There's the economy to be concerned about, um, the stock market, our retirement plans. All of these things are playing into how we feel about our lives right now. Not to mention social isolation, not being able to connect with family, go anywhere, travel, go even to a restaurant in some parts of the country. And again, the whole social injustice and cultural aspect of our political aspect of what's happening in our country right now. All of these things are causing elevated levels of stress amongst people. So just think about that. So how do we handle the stressor once we find out what that is? Well, one of the ways you can do this through the 4 A's. And it's really the 4 A's is about attitude. It's your attitude. How do you view and what is your perception of the things that you're dealing with in your life? So I'm going to go through the 4 A's really quickly with you to kind of show you how you can use these to help manage your stress better. Remember, it's about attitude. So the action steps is avoid, alter, adapt, or accept. That's the 4 A's. Avoid unnecessary stress comes back when think about something that causes you stress. Let's think about something simple like you eating maybe cheese makes your stomach nauseous. So you're not going to eat cheese if it makes you nauseous. You're going to avoid it. So this is about unnecessary stress, things that you just don't need in your life, but you still encounter or deal with for whatever the reason. So once you identify those things, just eliminate them. Avoid them altogether. So if you know that cheese makes you sick to your stomach, don't eat cheese anymore. So find out those things that cause you stress that you can eliminate that are not relevant to your life. Alter. Alter the situation by the way you communicate and operate. Again, it's really important because it's your perception. And it's really about how you can transform things that are giving you stress in your life. So, for instance, if you have a challenge communicating with someone, change the way that you communicate with them. Use some emotional intelligence and be more self aware or be more empathetic to how you communicate. Be aware of your communication style. I've been told many times that I could be intense with my communication style. So, to avoid conflict with some people, I will try to listen more. I will, you know, rephrase what I'm saying. I will take in what someone else is saying so that I can alter our communication relationship and how we relate to one another. So that's an example of how you can avoid stress or manage stress better by altering the way you communicate or the way you operate in regards to certain situations or even people in your life that may be causing you stress. So you may have to alter yourself instead of expecting other people to change the way they interact with you or the way a scenario or situation is set up. Maybe it's your job. And maybe there's things that processes in place that stress you out. Well, maybe you can't change the policies and procedures at your job, but you can change the way or alter the way that you handle it or approach it. So just thinking along those terms, things that you can alter. The next A is adapt. Adapt to the stresses by changing your expectations and attitude. Very similar to alter, but this one is about expectations and attitudes. A dear friend of mine told me one time that most conflicts in relationships come from expectations or unrealistic or uncommunicated expectations amongst people. And I had to sit back and think about that. And I said, that's true. You know, sometimes you may get upset with a friend because they may have forgotten your birthday or they didn't ask about your day. And so maybe adapting by changing our expectations of that person will cause us less stress. Maybe we need to think about what we expect, or at least communicate our expectations to others so that we can adapt our stresses in that way and our attitude. So adapt to the stresses by changing our expectations and attitude. They always say if you can't, what is it? You can't get them, join them. I forgot. If you can't beat them, join them. If you can't beat them, join them. So beating them is causing you a lot of stress, then maybe joining them will reduce the stress. I had to remember what that cliche statement was. But so that's an example of adapting to the stressors by changing your expectations and your attitude. And last but not least is accept the things you can't change. Have you ever heard of the serenity prayer? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The key to that statement is the wisdom to know the difference between the things that you can control and the things that you cannot control. So that's where we are accepting things. And this is really all about control, accepting the things that you can't change. I'm a bit of a control freak, I have to admit, most of my life. And so my intensity and level of stress has come from the fact that I try to control situations and maybe sometimes influence people in a way that can come across as controlling. And so I had to learn to take a step back and realize I can't control other people's actions or reactions. I can only control what Lisa does and how she responds to things. And that takes a weight off of me as well, because not responsible for anyone. I'm only responsible for me. So I have to understand the difference between what I can control and what other people can control in their lives. So those are the 4 A's to help you manage stress better. It's all about attitude. So what are you going to do? Are you going to avoid the things that's going to cause you stress? Are you going to alter the way that you communicate and operate? Are you going to adapt by changing your expectations? And also, what about accepting things that you can't control? You can use one or all of these things, but just think about the things that's causing you the biggest stress in your life right now, and which one of these techniques can actually help you alleviate or manage the stress in your life. That's your call to action. Next, we're going to talk about habitual thinking. Yes, habitual thinking. Those of you who know what I'm talking about, where your thoughts just can't stop. They're going over and over and over and over and over in your gut mind. And that just elevates your blood pressure. It just gets you angry. It gets you uptight because you got all these things going on in your life right now. Or maybe you are obsessing over something that you can't stop fixating on. Or maybe you're overanalyzing a decision that you need to make. Or maybe you're catastrophizing because one thing has happened and then something else happened. It's just one of those days where it's a snowball effect. Whether it's one or all of these things, don't think too much. You have to get out of the habit and break that habit of habitual thinking, because your thoughts can influence your emotions and your feelings, which cause stress in your life. So change your thought pattern, break those habits of overthinking things. So that definitely is one way to alleviate stress. How do you do that? Well, you do flexible thinking and rational thinking. It's about changing your mindset. When we're talking about flexible thinking, we're talking about giving yourself options, giving yourself asking questions and giving yourself options. Just really doing some self-analysis, basically. So if you're going to think things over, just ask yourself, why is whatever upsetting you upsetting you? Get to the stressor. So why am I upset about this? Okay, really? Why? And then if you're having a hard time making a decision and you're overanalyzing, give yourself options. Write a list of pros and write a list of cons and check off the one that meets your criteria. That's it. Give yourself flexible. Release yourself from being rigid in your mindset and give yourself options. The other way to break the habit of habitual thinking is rational thinking. Telling yourself you can only control how I feel or what I do. It goes back to what I said about accept. You can only control yourself. And when you really sit back and give yourself a break and say, well, this is stressing me out, but I can't control the circumstances. They're out of my control. So that releases you from being the one that needs to handle situation or make something happen. If you're still having a hard time making decisions because you overanalyze, get information. What information do I need that's going to help me make a decision? So it's really about changing the way you process information, the way you take in an information is what's going to help you break that habit of habitual thinking. All right. Another thing that we do that causes stress is self-talk. Yes, I do it too. Negative self-talk is what I'm talking about. Negative self-talk can cause you stress. If you continually tell yourself something is not going to happen, or you're overwhelmed, or you're tired, and you're fatigued, you're going to feel like that eventually. So changing the negative to the positive is the antidote to that. So changing those negative words from I can't, it's not going to happen, to yes, I can, and it will happen. I love this. Be careful how you're talking to yourself because you are listening. You are. And whatever you tell yourself, you will probably respond physically or in an emotional way over time. So pour more positive thought process in and speak it. Positive words. Don't say things like, oh, that was stupid. That was dumb. No, you made a mistake. That's what that is. That's not you're dumb. You're not stupid. You made a mistake. And what is the learning from that mistake? That's what we do when we want to change the way we think. Okay. All right. Another thing that's been coming up because of this pandemic is feelings of isolation. A lot of people are feeling it because we are disconnected. We're connected through Zoom and Facebook and other social media platforms. Not such a bad thing, but it can make you feel lonely. And it can bring up emotions that maybe were dormant before, or maybe weren't even there before. But these 4 emotions are the most common ones that most people are dealing with right now as a result of social isolation. Anger, especially if you lost your job, or or you've been downsized. Sadness if you lost a loved one due to this pandemic. Fear about if you're going to catch the virus yourself or if your job is going to be stable, and worry about what the future holds. We all are experiencing that right now. So these are the emotions that are prevalent. And again, stress triggers some of these emotions. So if your stress level's up, then these negative emotions will come up to the forefront as well. So what can you do to manage these emotions? Well, it's easier, of course, to say it, but it is the most obvious is that when you're angry, you have to calm yourself down. You need to be able to bring down the temperature, so to speak. So when something triggers you or makes you angry, you really want to be conscious about remaining calm. And I know that could be hard. Some people are a little bit more trigger happy than others. Some people are more temperamental than others emotionally. And so if you're prone to anger, or you're prone to responding or reacting in anger or hostility or irritability, practice some things. And we're going to talk about ways that can help you later on through mindfulness. But, really it's just the antidote is really, you just have to maintain calm to give your mind a time to take a step back and pause. If you're experiencing overwhelming sadness, Talk about your feelings. Don't bottle it up. We have a tendency to stuff how we feel and not share our emotions. That's not good, because what you stuff is going to come out, and it usually comes out in those unhealthy coping mechanisms I was talking about earlier. So being able to share how you feel and finding a safe place to do that is really important. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Fear is another emotion that is negative and that can have an impact on your life, and it's caused by stress. So when you are fearful, it's usually because you don't know. It's a fear of the unknown, or maybe you do know something and it's making you fearful, but maybe you don't have enough information. So when you don't know something, try to find the answer, because that's what holds a lot of people back, is fear of the unknown. So try to get as much information as you can to help alleviate that feeling. Worry and self-doubt are also some emotions that people are experiencing. And when you do, again, use those techniques I just talked about, self-talk, positive affirmations to alleviate, and in the 4 A's again, if you're worrying about something, let's change the way you see that through your attitude. Okay, so positive self-talk will combat that negative self-talk that you have. Another technique that can help is called drop your anchor, the ACE. Drop your anchor is a form of mindfulness, actually. And we're going to give you a little bit more about that in a moment. But it's a way that you can at least identify your emotion, because a lot of people don't acknowledge their emotions, especially the negative ones. They dismiss it, or they stuff them and don't acknowledge them. And as a result, like I said, unhealthy coping mechanisms come out as a result of that. You wonder why all of a sudden you're increasing your binge TV as a form of escapism, because you don't want to deal with the emotions or feel the emotions of sadness or worry. And so one of the things we recommend is that you acknowledge how you feel, name it. If you're feeling sad, name it. Again, if you don't know what that feels like and you're crying all of a sudden, or you're having down days, more than likely you're sad, and say it. It's not bad to say you're sad. It's not a bad thing at all. Just acknowledge that that's how you feel and connect to that emotion, meaning that you have to acknowledge it. Once you acknowledge it and say, well, this is how I feel, and then and engage your senses in it. So I'm feeling sad, I'm crying, or I'm worrying and I'm having headaches. Where are these headaches coming from? Because you have stress or lack of sleep. So just acknowledging and connecting to your body. If you're feeling fatigued, let's identify where that fatigue is coming from. What does that feel like? And engage your 5 senses through that, because that's how you start identifying and moving forward into addressing these mental and physical responses to the way you handle stress. It's really important to do that. And also see your medical practitioner. So if you hold in a lot of emotions, there's going to be physical repercussions from that. Gastro issues, sometimes our blood pressure is elevated because of stress. And so these are things that we need to be aware of, and how stress is playing out in our lives. And sometimes seeking a medical professional will also help you in this area as well. So part of ACE is called mindfulness. And this is many of you have heard of it. It's a technique to help you get connected to your emotions, sort of a wake up moment. You know how you get angry and people say, I don't know where that came from. It came out of nowhere. Well, it did come out of nowhere in your mind, but it actually showed up before you went off with the mouth. You could feel your heart rate rapidly getting quicker, beating faster. You could feel your skin getting flushed. You kind of know your body, or at least if you don't, this is a good way to get connected to your body to identify emotions that come up. So it's about being in the moment, again, acknowledging your feelings and not judging them. Not saying, I don't want to get mad because I don't want to be like this and I don't want people to judge me. It's no judgment. It's acknowledging that you are angry and saying that you're angry, feeling it, and then taking a step away from it, so to speak, and asking certain questions about, why am I angry, and what can I do to use this emotion in a more positive way? The benefits of work with mindfulness is become more self-aware. You develop more emotional intelligence. You decline your mood disturbances. So if you have a tendency to be very temperamental, up and down, mindfulness helps even you out and balance you out. And if you continue to practice it on a regular basis, it is a practice and a habit that has to be established. You learn to be more conscientious of your surroundings externally, the people that you're interacting with, and even your own response to people and situations so that you can manage your impulses and your response, at least on from a physical basis, a little bit better. So that if you know you're walking in a situation, you can say to yourself, oh, okay, this is how I reacted in the past, and this is what has caused me to be stressed. So now that I know how to manage that, I'm going to be very aware. I'm going to listen carefully. I'm going to watch and I'm going to feel how my body responds so that I can do a preemptive check if I need to. So mindfulness is a powerful tool that has been used in the medical profession for years to help patients cope with chronic conditions, and now is in mainstream and definitely has increased usage since we've been in this pandemic, and it helps with overall emotional health. Another technique that I like to share is called hygge. Hygge is a Danish word which is used in Danish countries about well-being and contentment, because in those countries during the winter months, they have longer winters. So gray days, long, cold winters, people's emotional health has a tendency to decline. And so they came up with this whole cultural, it's a whole cultural aspect of how people find their happy place and contentment and that cozy feeling, and through simple things. It's about making life more simplistic, simplifying life, slowing things down for a moment and enjoying the moment. Similar to mindfulness, but mindfulness is also practiced internally. This is also using things externally to find that place that makes us feel good. So you doing anything that has externally you have used can help bring and elevate your mood. So for me, I use this example of this tree that blooms near me every spring. And every time I see this spring, it makes me feel, excuse me, I had to scratch my foot. um, every time I see this tree, I get such a good feeling in the back of my spine, and it brings a smile. It's like joyful, and I love the smell of the blooms. So that's my hygge. So other people, it could be a cup of hot tea on a rainy day. It's snowing today, so it could be sitting in a chair with a nice cozy blanket and looking out the window that just makes you feel good. I mean, whatever it is, it's about simplicity, and that simplicity that brings you joy. You remember when you was a kid and you had things that were simple in your life and it made you feel good? Well, that's what we're talking about. Well, hygge, hygge. All right, the things that we need to do that can help us with our emotional health and lower our stress level is taking a break and unplugging from technology. Yes, yes, I've said it and I've done it, and I encourage you all to do that as well. We are inundated, especially now, with more use of technology because of social distancing and working from home. And we just need to be able to, I'm sorry, didn't turn off my phone. We need to look at turning off that television, turning off our phones, turning off that computer, and taking a break and just unplugging from all technology. Start off small. If you really connected, start off small and do maybe an hour, and then move up to a whole day. And then maybe you can go a whole weekend without plugging into something. Why is that so important? Because it gives your mind a break and a breather, and it helps you to kind of get back into the moment and just be in the moment. Pick up a book or do something else, but just unplugging from technology, and your children too. So what will you do? Will you use ACE, anchor yourself in your emotions? Will you start practicing mindfulness? Will you find simplicity through hygge, or will you unplug from technology? You can use all or just one at a time. Again, focus on the thing that's causing you the stress right now and try to take one of these action steps that I'm sharing with you and incorporate them into your lifestyle. Other things that can help you externally, letting light in. Light is very important, especially during winter months for people who struggle with seasonal depression, where the sun goes down and longer nights and shorter days. Sunlight with the vitamin D can definitely help be a mood elevator. Go out and get walks, open your blinds so you can let light in. And then some people I know use what's called lamps in their homes. I don't know the name of them, but they are mimic solar lighting. And so that has been helpful for people who struggle with seasonal depression to kind of include that natural lighting in their home. So any one of those techniques will help you with your, if you struggle in that area with seasonal depression and you need more solar natural lighting. Find your peace and calm, find your zen, whatever that is and where that is. Sanctuary, where is your sanctuary? You should have a sanctuary. It could be externally at a park or a lake or someplace you like to go to where you can find that peace that you long for, or it could be even in your own home. Have a she shed. Do you have your own personal room where you can just go to? And that makes a difference when you can have your separate place that's just all for you and no one else go to. And again, it can be external or internal, but it should be a place that's special. It's your sacred place, your place that you can escape to every now and then. And of course, music is another way of bringing our stress levels down and bring peace and calm. Choose your type of music that you want to listen to. I do listen to music when I'm working during the day. I like that background soft music. It actually makes me more productive, believe it or not. And I know a lot of people use music to calm their anxiety and stress levels. Um, you know, lifestyle is also important as well. Healthy lifestyle, where you're talking about diet, our nutrition plays a part in that. If you're not eating healthy and you're eating a lot of junk food, that's going to have an impact on your body eventually, of course, which is going to cause you other stress. So, balancing your diet with nutritious elements is really important. Eating healthy, reducing caffeine and sugar when you can, avoiding alcohol, cigarettes, and any type of drugs, and making sure you get plenty of sleep. Again, fatigue does increase our stress levels, or stress level can also impact our being able to sleep. So, if you can manage your sleep in a way that you can get the rest you need, it will definitely help you with any type of anxiety or depression or stress that you're feeling. And again, incorporating physical exercise is also a mood elevator. There's studies that show, and definitely evidence and research that indicates if you incorporate some type of physical activity into your lifestyle, it will have an impact on your stress level, which of course impacts your physical overall health. It lowers our blood pressure, cholesterol, and diabetes as well. So incorporate some type of exercise routine in your daily or weekly schedule is going to be a benefit to you overall. Joy. There's a difference between happiness and joy. I hear people saying, I just want to be happy. I myself have said that in the past. Unfortunately, happiness is fleeting. It doesn't last long. And happiness is external, meaning that it's based on what's around you, versus joy, which is internal. So finding joy is maybe a little bit more challenging because we are sensual and stimulated. We want instant gratification as human beings. And so when we look for happy, we look for things that are going to make us feel good at that moment. Joy, on the other hand, to me, my definition is it's more long lasting for sure, but it develops over time, and it sustains you over time as well. That no matter what's going on externally, that you still have that inner peace, calm, and just joy and gratitude about your life, regardless of what's going on. And so that's much more challenging to incorporate or to embrace or to even develop. But I encourage you to find joy or look for joy or to develop joy in your life, which will have more sustainability over time in your life and will have so many benefits even beyond the stress and everything else. So how do you find joy? Well, it's through connection, because we're human beings and we're supposed to be connected. And so connection is really important, having those connections to other people in your life, finding fun and relaxation in the things that you do. Set aside leisure time, do the things that you like to do or you used to do. If you haven't had a chance to, go back and find out what makes you happy, what makes you joyful, what kind of activities bring you joy. Is it reading books? Is it gardening? Well, I can't garden now because it's wintertime, but whatever it is, whatever hobby you used to do or what want to do it. Find the things that bring you joy. Is it babysitting your babies or grandbabies? Whatever it is, take time out of your week and your day to do things for you This is the self-care that we've been talking about all month in January in our Facebook group. And so this is where you find that by doing the things that are important and have meaning to you in your lifestyle. So it could be reading books, revisit something you enjoy, doing yoga and meditation, or just even developing a sense of humor, laughing at yourself or laughing at a joke again. So things that it's not that hard and complicated. Sometimes it's just as simple as laughing at a joke that can actually elevate your mood. Other things that have helped is helping others, service, volunteering. There's actual evidence on this as well that by helping others, it helps alleviate your mood and elevate your mood to more positive thinking and positive feelings. So there is a need for somebody to help somebody all the time, even virtually. So I would encourage you all to find a organization that you can volunteer with. If you belong to a church, there's always a need there. Maybe there could be family or friends that need some help, but find a need or something you like to do that you can help other people. So service and volunteering is also a great way to lower your stress and alleviate anxiety and depression because you are not thinking about yourself, you're focusing on other people who definitely need help. So, what are you going to do? What's your call to action? Do you need to increase your sun exposure? Do you need to get out more, open your blinds? Do you need to create a personal sanctuary for yourself? How about connecting or reconnecting to others? Leisure activities, finding the things that you always found joyful in the past and reconnecting or revisiting that, or helping others, finding a service organization that you can volunteer your time. So that's your call to action. You can use one of those things, but I would encourage you to incorporate all of them in what I call your toolbox, your stress management toolbox. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about taking care of your mental health because all of this stress has a lot to do with our mental health. I am a mental health first aid instructor, so we teach about this all the time. Anxiety and depression is one of the most common disorders. There's others as well, but those are the most common disorders here in the United States among adults and children alike. And so taking care of your mental health is really important. Stress management is part of that, but there's other things that you should do as well if you're prone to having mental health challenges, which thank goodness is no, we're moving more forward to being open about these things and getting people connected to the help that they need. But again, with the pandemic and all that's happening, there has been an increase of people who are unfortunately falling into what we call crisis situations. And so if you yourself or know someone who is experiencing challenges with mental health from and going into a crisis situation, we teach this mental health action plan similar to CPR to help people to make sure that they are seen and make sure that they know somebody's there to help them and making sure they get connected to the help that they need. Just think of it as CPR, but for mental health and emotional health. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you're assessing somebody who's at risk for suicide or harm. Yes, it's a real thing. And I'm pretty sure the numbers are going up since we've been in the pandemic. So we want to make sure that people are not at risk for hurting themselves or harming themselves. And even if they are, they're not, you want to make sure that you are there present with them and that you're empathizing and that you're listening non-judgmentally. That's really important because you want to make sure people feel that they can speak and say what they want to say without feeling judged. And that develops that trust with you. Giving them reassurance. Information is about giving them hope, letting them know that even though they're going through any challenges, and if I'm speaking to you, then it's also you, that there is help available. There is hope. You can recover from mental health challenges, like either managing your symptoms and living a very productive, functioning, and contributing lifestyle. So letting people know that they may be experiencing some challenges right now, but there's a lot of assistance and resources out there to help overcome these challenges of depression and anxiety. Encouraging people to get the professional help they need and connecting them to professional therapists or psychiatrists or treatment programs if they need it, and encouraging them on their own to advocate for their own mental health and giving them support strategies that can help them as well. And some of those support strategies include things that we already talked about: exercise, relaxation, meditation, peer support groups like 12-step programs. There's a lot of self-help books, audio books online about depression and anxiety, maybe recommending some of that, and getting people support systems through their support network, family, friends, and faith-based organizations. So just make sure that you take care of yourself, or if you know somebody who's challenged in this area, you are helping them to take care of themselves by just basically walking alongside them and being a support system. Because that's what people need to know, that there's somebody there that can listen. You may not be able to do anything for them, but just listening is the first step. These numbers are mental health hotline numbers. Again, if somebody is in a serious crisis, these are the numbers that we always refer people to talk to a professional. They're manned 24 hours, 7 days a week. So the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Disaster Distress Helpline, and you can even crisis text a counselor to 741-741 or MHFA. So there's a number of resources that are available to people if they are in crisis. The next part that I'm going to talk about is planning ahead. Because we are currently in a pandemic, who's to say that something else is not to be a doomsday person, but I think that when you're dealing with stressful things in your life, that's part of life. That's just things that we have. And so to build resilience up to manage these things so that you don't fall apart, you have to have a contingency plan in place. It's always important to build margins in your life, to give yourself space and not overdo anything, because it gives you a safety net that if something does happen, that you're not going to crack under the pressure. So it's important to leave space for the unexpected. We're currently in a global national event that none of us would have seen. So we couldn't prepare for that. But I can tell you some lessons that's learned from this that will help me if, goodness sake, it happens again. So I do have some things that I've learned from this past year that I said, okay, if this happens again, I know what I need to do in the future. It could be something like technology breakdown. So making sure I have a backup external hard drive so that if anything I have won't fall apart, because you never know with technology. If I'm going to get sick, making sure that my health insurance is in place, that I'm taking my medications, or if there's economic unrest, making sure that my finances are in order. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about building capacity, is giving yourself time. It could even be time itself. Now, instead of booking myself up for a full 8-hour day, I'm going to give myself breaks in between my meetings so that I don't overwhelm myself and stress myself out. I hear so many times people go, oh, I had a hard day. I had meetings back to back to back to back. Well, schedule 30 minutes in between those meetings so that you can decompress and give yourself a moment. At the end of the day, give yourself an hour to decompress so that you can move into the next phase of your day. So, just giving yourself some space is really, really important. It's also important to have plans in place so that you can manage major events like what we're experiencing. Part of that is having that support system that I talked about again, making sure that not only are you looking for support for yourself, but are you a support for other people? How about your family and friends? Are you there, not just the good times, but also in the bad times? I am fortunate to have a really good network of girlfriends and sister friends that I meet with on a regular basis, because it helps establish that kind of support system that we have. Is good for me, and I always let them know that I'm always there for them as well. So let people know that you're available to them, because you never know when somebody needs somebody to talk to. And again, going back to the professional help, if you need to see a therapist or a life coach, sometimes you don't even need a therapist. A life coach can also help you. Reach out and connect. It's not a sign of weakness. It's actually strength to say that I need help and I'm having a hard time coping with what's all going on in my life. Okay. So that's really important to know. Creating a plan that if, something does happen, how do you manage? This is our new normal from now on. So probably will not go back to the way it used to be. And so there's lessons learned from this. So having a plan on how to manage and emergency times helps you keep some type of normalcy in your life. And it also empowers you. It makes you feel, okay, good. I got this. I got this. I planned ahead. And so I know that I'm not going to fall to pieces because I have A, B, and C in place. So that's why it's important to kind of create a plan for your life, whether it's financial, whether it's medical, whether it's emotional, whatever it is, just put something in place to give you a foundation so that you could feel that some things are going to maintain themselves, even if everything else goes into crazy or chaos. Okay. All right. So, what are you going to apply to your life? You're going to manage your thoughts and emotions. You're going to integrate self care if you have not done that. Are you going to establish routines? Because routines could also help you manage your stress as well. Setting a time to go to bed every night at the same time, planning your meals ahead for the week. Anything that can help maintain some sense of normalcy. Building margin and capacity in your life, not overbooking your day, and incorporating self development. This is the time to also do the things, like I said, that you didn't get a chance to do in 2020. What kind of things did you always want to do? Like write a book, start a business, whatever it is, start incorporating some self development for your own life to bring you some joy in that way. So I hope you learned something from this webinar, not even a webinar meeting. I hope you kind of taken some tips from here to help you manage the uncertainty and most importantly, be able to help manage your emotions and stress in a healthy way. So I thank you for joining me for this and I look forward to talking to you the next time. All right. Stay safe and stay healthy.